Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be discussing how the fire sale continues. We've had an additional 2 Dynasty trades. We're going to break it all down as well as a Week 8 recap. If you haven't been following along with us during the course of this season, we're going to be giving you a behind-the-scenes look into a real Dynasty salary cap and contracts league. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about 2 trades, and these are blockbuster trades. These aren't just some run-of-the-mill trades that we've talked about in the past. I was involved in one of them, yes, so I've been involved with a couple trades already this year. So we're going to break down. We're going to be going with the first trade here, and that involved Andrew and Jason. So Andrew received running back Devon Achane on a 2-year, $3.3 million contract. That's still his rookie deal. Includes $0 million guaranteed. Tight end Tucker Kraft, 2 years, $2.1 million, including $0 million guaranteed. Also still on his rookie contract. A 2026 third-round pick, a 2026 fifth-round pick, and a 2026 sixth-round pick. In return, Jason received running back Travion Henderson, who has been quite a disappointment so far this season, but he is on a 4-year plus a 5th-year option, $12.6 million. Contract is fully guaranteed. A 2026 first-round pick and a 2026 second-round pick. So this is signaling to the rest of the league that Andrew is not playing around, Joe. He's pushing all the chips in. One of the things that we have talked about with Andrew's team was we felt like he's got a great defense, but his offense was, kind of lackluster. So what do you make of this trade here for Andrew? Do you think he gave up too much? Is it just right? Jason's team, honestly, is still in the thick of it, too. I was a little surprised, but he does have Rondé Gadsden, who can step up in that tight end room, and there's a lot of excitement around him. And he's got Quinshon Judkins and DeAndre Swift and McCaffrey, so he doesn't really need – he kind of could trade a running back here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it really is interesting. Obviously, it's a really aggressive move from Andrew's perspective, and, Andrew coveted Travion Henderson, moved a lot of picks in order for him to even get it to the position to draft Henderson in the rookie draft this year. So that was surprising.
To recall, that was just for those who weren't in our rookie draft. Andrew traded 3 first-round picks to move up to the number 6 pick to select Travion Henderson, right? Because I believe it was 2 picks in the late first plus that 2027 first to get Travion Henderson.
Yeah. So, I mean, now you're saying getting rid of him plus another first and a second-round pick. But, I mean, he does get Devon Achane, who no doubt, is going to give him way faster returns. And Achane's been one of the top backs this year. Honestly, he's getting more touches on a per-game basis than even last year. So, that's what I mean. For Andrew trying to really push in and get put himself in a better championship position and, keep riding his hot start despite, dropping 2 games in a row here. He was undefeated and lost 2 now. I think he did have to do something to turn it around. Now he's getting Tucker Kraft too. I mean, he was just been a really reliable tight end, one of the top tight ends in fantasy this year. So, I mean, overall it was interesting. And what you mentioned, Jason still being in the thick of it too, interesting for him. Yeah, he could afford to lose Achane, but I mean, same time, having Tucker Kraft and Gadsden, I mean, being that we are a tight end premium league, to have potentially starting both of those, just kind of interesting from that perspective. I get that, running back wise, he could afford to lose Achane. And then he's getting Henderson, which, he's got some older running backs. So this gives him a reliable young starter moving forward, plus a couple other picks. But really interesting trade all around. But I mean, I definitely like this move from Andrew as he tries to really boast his roster and be more in the real talks of a championship team.
I think, honestly, for both teams, it's kind of an interesting trade. On the Andrews side, it definitely helps him be more competitive with both those players. I think what's nice is they both are not on their last year of their contract, so
Right.
Allows him to have at least 2 years on that rookie deal before having to pay them. And I think at that point, Andrew would be able to pay them, so I think that's positive. I think I like the Tucker Kraft piece of it more than I do the Achane piece. I like Achane with Mike McDaniel. If Mike McDaniel is no longer the head coach with that zone block running scheme, I don't know if Achane is going to continue to be as dominant. So to me, that's my biggest concern with Achane. I've always had that concern, so this won't be any news to anybody who's tuning in. So I'm a little worried about that, but I do think that Andrew will be able to retain them past this year. And I really like he's got Andrews and Chikakonkwo. Both those guys are on expiring contracts this year in real life and in this league. So I think, having Kraft as the future for his tight end, I think that's going to be huge for him. On Jason's side, I don't know if his roster was good enough to make a run at it. I think he would have had to decide to go put all his chips in. I don't know if his team's there. So I appreciate his willingness to say, hey, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not competing anymore because I still have got Gadsden. I still have got Judkins, McCaffrey, and Swift. But I really like the Judkins-Henderson pairing for the next, frankly, 5 years that he could have those two guys. Because if he doesn't keep McCaffrey and Swift, who are going to be free agents next year, that's a really, really solid pairing. The only thing is, are you worried at all about Henderson? Henderson, for whatever reason, has just not been able to really get, I guess last game there was some signs of life, but I don't know. I'm kind of concerned about him. I mean, it just seems like the Patriots don't want to use him. Now, I did see that Ramondre Stevenson has a toe injury. If, for whatever reason, Stevenson does miss the game, is this the first time that we finally get to see Henderson do something? Because who's going to seal the backfield at that point if Henderson's out for the game?
Yeah, I mean, you saw the strides. They definitely got Henderson more involved last game. He looked good outside of that, fumble towards the end of the game, and as they got towards the goal line there, which doesn't bode well for him. But I'm not worried about Travion Henderson. Look, if you've been following on, I've always said, Henderson just isn't going to get thrusted into this role. Ramondre Stevenson, if you draft Travion Henderson, was going to be more involved than you'd like for a Travion Henderson owner. So I've kind of seen this, the writing was on the wall for me. So I think as we continue to get further into the season, I think he'll gain more and more trust. And the McDaniel system is also just tough for rookies to, digest, and it kind of can take some time there. So as far as, even Henderson moving forward, maybe he's not as relevant as fantasy owners would like this year, but I think next year, he should really take a step.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you credit there, Joe. You definitely read that situation correct, because I thought that Henderson, especially with the draft capital that they spent and with all the fumbling issues with Ramondre, I thought for sure Henderson would get more involved, and he just hasn't been.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're acknowledging it, and they are, unlike the Lions smokescreen and everybody saying they're going to get David Montgomery more involved, and then Jahmyr Gibbs has more touches than he had all season. So just interesting.
All right, the next blockbuster trade that we had was involving myself and Charlie yet again making a deal. I received running back Saquon Barkley, 4 years, $109.7 million. That's a whopping contract, including $48.2 million guaranteed. Linebacker Foye Oluokun, 5 years, $67.5 million with $15.5 guaranteed, and cornerback Marcus Jones on a veteran, or he's not really a veteran, but a rookie minimum contract. For Charlie, he received linebacker D Winters, 2 years, $0.7 million, including $0 million guaranteed, 2 2026 second-round picks, and a 2027 first-round pick. As a part of the deal, Charlie did absorb the remaining of Foye's contract for this year. Joe, being it was my deal, I'll let you speak about this first. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I like the move ultimately for you. You needed to do something, especially after Cam Skadaboo's injury at the running back position. And then, Foye is another, obviously he's one of, really good linebacker to add to your defense. And then, Marcus Jones has just been awesome in our IDP league here, especially with his return upside as well. So I think that made all the sense for you to do this trade. And for Charlie, I mean, he's now collected pretty much all your picks between 2026 and 2027 as far as the relevant ones that you'd want first and second rounders. D Winters, I think, is whatever. I think you and I thought he should have been better than what he has been. And then even, the game where we saw Fred Warner go down, Winters didn't perform quite as well, but at least it's, an interesting young linebacker for Charlie to get anyways in the deal here.
Charlie's really set up for success. I
Yeah.
mean, he basically has a war chest of picks now. And having 4 first-round picks in 2027 is going to be huge. That receiver class, on paper, looks like it could be unbelievable.
Yeah.
With Jeremiah Smith, with Ryan Williams, with Cam Coleman, I believe. So it's like all those guys coming out. I mean, wide receiver is probably outside quarterback the most important position. So having all those picks in that class, I mean, Charlie needs a quarterback and a receiver. So having those picks are going to be huge for him to turn this thing around. So I think it's going to really help him. I was straddling the fence a little bit. Do I decide? I was kind of regretting my TJ Watt trade because he's not done all that much. And interestingly enough, I could have had Marcus Jones earlier, and I was like, nah, he's not that good. And then lo and behold, he was going to, basically say, prove me wrong. And he did, because if I had him, I would have probably had 2 more wins by now if I would have just acquired him in the beginning. But at this point, I just said, you know what? I feel like my roster is at the point where I can compete. I got to just go for this. And running back is tough to trade for. I mean, I think I got the best that I could. I did do some shopping around for other running backs, but I just, based on, reading the room of our league, I don't think I considered I think I could have maybe, talking about Jason, I was thinking about maybe I could probably have gone DeAndre Swift for cheaper. That was my pivot plan was, okay, maybe I can get Swift for a 2nd round pick. Then maybe I get Jordan Brooks for a 2nd round pick, from Mark's team. But then in that case, both of them are on 1-year deals, and I don't have the money to sign those guys. So that means I'm getting them for a rental, and I hope I win. But if I don't win this year, I still have Saquon. I still have Foye next year. So to me, it's like, let me have a little more longevity with the 2 guys. I don't have my 2027 first, but at the same time, I was like, it might be worth having some of those guys on contracts.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. I mean, we've seen guys kind of, even I have done that, just get all these guys on 1-year deals and then, ultimately not get to where you want. And then you're kind of stuck. And most of the time, you're competing with teams, so you don't have the cap space to go ahead and sign those guys in the offseason. So sure, you gain some comp picks, but it'd be really nice if you could keep those guys. So I think that's where I do think it made sense for you to go out and get Saquon Barkley. He had been disappointed, but you kind of saw signs of life for him in that Philadelphia offense against the Giants there. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think that's why, with you having Baker Mayfield, you got a couple years as your window to compete, and this trade really kind of fit that.
Well, I felt a little bit better too that I have the handcuff and Tank Bigsby as well on my roster.
Yeah.
So even if that groin injury is a concern with Saquon Barkley, I got Tank Bigsby, and I've got him for the next 2 years. So that made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, that is big, because I didn't at first I didn't even know you had Tank Bigsby, and I was thinking like, oh man, like if they come out of the bye and Barkley's not ready to go, like Bigsby's could be pretty good.
That would have been bad. All right, so now we're going to go through our matchups for Week 8, starting with my matchup, which, oh, man, I was going to tear my hair out on this one. I lost 253.5 to 254.35, less than a point. We've had a couple of these games, but Baker Mayfield did an absolute dud for me. And Chris Jones, man, he has been absolutely horrendous. I had him, and John had Jalen Watson. I thought for sure – there's no way. I had the lead, and no way I'm going to lose that game. And, of course, Chris Jones got 3.5 points, and Jalen Watson got 7.5 points. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But honestly, it's a really tough loss for me. I was in, but it just goes to show I was going back and forth on whether or not to start D. Winters or whether to start Shaq Thompson for the Bills. And I was like, Shaq Thompson looks like the starter. Terrell Bernard's hurt. It's against the Panthers, which was his team all along. So I'm like, oh, it's a revenge game narrative, blah, blah, blah. D. Winters didn't do as well. Bethune was the guy. So I'm like, I'm going to go with Shaq Thompson. Well, Shaq Thompson got 7.5 points, and D. Winters got 20 points. So had I, started him, I ended up winning the game, and I switched it right before. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me, Joe. You just can't win.
No, a lot of the times, man, those last second changes don't really work out. You just overthink them and make the wrong move. But yeah, tough loss for you. Like you said, we've seen this almost every week. I feel like there's been, especially the last few, there's been those really razor thin margins in our league matchups there. Just, sucks for you to be on the wrong side of that. But, also Scatabo going down, didn't help either.
No, because he definitely would have gotten more than the 10.5 points he did.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So, just some tough luck there, but I think, you'll be able to rebound here given the moves that you made.
Yeah, I got a big game against Jake next week, so that'll be interesting. Because right now I'm the 8th seed and he's the 7th seed, so this is a big week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Jake's team's been, kind of up and down. I feel like it's almost like it's a kind of a roller coaster for him.
Next, we've got Aaron versus Charlie. Aaron ended up beating Charlie by almost over 100 points, 321.35 to Charlie's 221.45. Charlie's team's kind of fallen off the rails here. Had a couple of zeros in the column. Kind of a tough break, I think, especially with just how his team is performing and now all the trades that he's made with me. Charlie's team here, the wheels are starting to fall off the apple cart here.
Yeah, definitely. But at this point, he's not exactly motivated to win either. Aaron had a really nice week, and yeah, I mean, we'll see Charlie kind of continue on this slide based on, this other second blockbuster trade he's done with it. Because I mean, Barkley got up 37 points, so that those type of games won't be happening for him.
Next matchup here, we got Paul versus you, Joe. Paul took you to the cleaners, beat you by over 100 points, 370.75 to your 268. Curious to see how this matchup was going to turn out. But, I'll give Paul credit here. His offense, man, over 200 points, 225 points. I do think, right now, and I do believe this pretty strongly, when it comes to fantasy football, even in something like Dynasty, usually there's I'd say 1 to 2, maybe 3 players that just have a year. And if you just have that player, let alone, you are you are going to be in playoff contention. You may even have a chance to win it. And that's looking like Jonathan Taylor right now.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor is having an incredible season. Paul, you were complaining about how much you had to pay for Jonathan Taylor. I think you should probably be pretty happy with what you paid for him, because if you had to look for what he's going to be wanting now, I think he'd be going through the roof. So I think, just honestly, if Jonathan Taylor keeps his pace up, Paul's going to be a tough out, because just even it's not just one player. I mean, heck, we start a ton of players, but somebody that dominant and they're going to score like that. I mean, in our league, for running backs, you're getting points for first downs, but you're talking about 44.4 last week, 42.7. He's averaging 32.1 points a game. I mean, that's incredible. He's on pace to have his best season that he's ever had. Already 12 touchdowns. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the last few games, I think it's 3 games in a row he's had 3 touchdowns, which is just really remarkable. But you're not wrong. Like, there is typically that one guy who just kind of goes off, has that anomaly year. I feel like at the running back position last year, it was really Saquon. And, they turn out to be a league winner for you. And, in this league, sure, you could look at it, we start so many players, but it definitely helps. And then, even Joe Flacco just bringing new life to that Cincinnati Bengals offense. Chase Brown is more relevant along with the receivers there. But obviously, Paul having Chase Brown really helps. And then, young receivers. I mean, who would have thought that at the beginning of the year that you'd really want pieces of this Colts offense, given we weren't sure who was going to be the starting quarterback. But even, Michael Pittman's rebounding and having a nice year, which he's always been good as long as Richardson hasn't been the quarterback.
My biggest thing with Paul is, if I were him, if you're listening out there, Paul, I would take some of your draft picks and I would try to get a premier defensive player. Like your offense is cruising right now, but if you could trade, and you probably won't do it, but if it were me, if I could trade possibly 2 firsts and get a guy like Max Crosby in there and have an impact player like that on your defense, that to me, you got to have a game record on defense. I think that you don't need it. I mean, hey, he scored 370 points, Joe. I mean, who am I? I mean, if he keeps playing that, man, he's going to be a tough out no matter what.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were highlighting his team, just looking at how bad his defense was. Wasn't sure how good he was going to be, but he's right up there. Tied for the second best record in our league. Been doing really well even without a premier defensive player. He's gotten some boom weeks from different guys. Like last week it was Caleb Von Chason. This week Robert Spillane scored him a bunch of points this week. So he is getting some week to week pieces on defense. But like you said, I mean, overall it's not scoring a ton. But like you said, I mean, if his offense is going to keep exploding like that, it might not matter that his defense only gets him 100 points.
Yeah, right now, Paul just said we'll wrap this up here. Paul right now is, as far as offense goes, he is the third highest scoring offense. But on his defense, he is the 12th highest scoring defense.
Yeah, so, I mean, averages out though, and both between them, and you're not wrong. I mean, if he could, have a elite guy like a Max Crosby, I mean, that would really only elevate his team that much higher, even though he has really had a successful season.
And you're setting yourself up for success, Joe, with Drake May. You got to be feeling real good about that trade right now.
Oh, very, very happy about the trade. I mean, Drake May, I had high hopes for him, and basically everything I thought would happen has been happening with him, and just excited to be able to, I got a good set of young receivers now, and just excited to kind of be able to build around Drake May and some of these young offensive pieces that I have.
Next matchup here, we had a heavyweight one with Chris and Nolan versus Dan. Another blowout here, over 100-point game here with Dan getting the win. Dan's offense, again, very powerful with Jordan Love, putting on a clinic. But let's see what I'm talking about here. Myles Garrett, now you're not going to get a guy who's always going to get 5 sacks, but he had 5 sacks in a forced fumble. Got Dan over 80 points. That, and I know, Nolan had something to say about that. But, hey, look, it's not every day that a player gets 5 sacks. What can I tell you?
No. I mean, what it was that Khalil Mack who did that a couple of years ago as well. So, I mean, yeah, it's not something that happens frequently, but I feel like, though, when it does, I feel like you should get rewarded with the amount of points. I mean, as much, as guys might complain about an 80-point week, but like you said, I mean, we know how volatile, IDP can be in your defensive players, and you have 5 sacks. I mean, that's just an incredible game. Just crazy that he could be that dominant, but yet the Patriots still, scored so many points and ended up winning that game, comfortably.
I mean, that alone, honestly, you talk about a difference maker. That alone, him playing that way, is basically like whether win or loss there. Because, 2 weeks ago, when the Browns played the Steelers, Garrett got 3 points. So, right. So, I mean, it could very well, he could have, there are matchups where even a guy like him will get you 3 points, but then there are matchups where he does this, and that can literally win you a game.
Yep. And that's just kind of, like we say, you have an elite player like that, it gives you the opportunity for weeks like this. And it's not going to happen every week, but it gives you that opportunity to have these boom weeks.
Well said, Joe. Well said. Next matchup, we got Tom versus Jason. This is a closer matchup. Jason ended up winning this 329 to 302.4. I think Tom has just continued to be, riddled with the quarterback woes. With Joe Burrow going down, having to start Carson Wentz. He did not do well against the Chargers. And now with Wentz being on IR, him being done, he's got basically Jake Browning now. They're saying Joe Flacco may not play this game, but basically means Tom is quarterbackless. So I'll be curious to see if Tom is going to roll with no quarterback here. I don't know how long I know he's got a good supporting cast, but I just don't know how long you could go without a good quarterback. Either are you going to go and try to trade one and get one to try to continue to compete, or are you going to, possibly blow things up? I don't know. Or maybe just stay the course. What do you do, Joe?
I think the rubber is kind of meeting the road here for Tom. And I think it's either, as he sits in our league here, he's currently 3-5, the 11th best team in the league right now. It's to me, it's either go ahead and try to trade for a quarterback and keep your team in contention, or either that, or just be like start looking to the scrap mode, and push on for the future here.
Well, Cam Hayward was put on the block by Tom, so it should be interesting to see if anyone ends up taking that
And
bait.
kind of an interesting thing. He put a deadline on for tomorrow. Whoever gives him the best offer, it's going to be. Typically not a move we see, but interested to see if it works for him and if we see an announcement tomorrow.
And we'll find out here shortly. Then we got Tim versus Adam. Tim scored 290.25 to Adam's 261.35. I think it's, honestly, when it comes to this matchup, I think it was a situation where both of them are trying to stay alive here. It looks like Tim ended up, beating out Adam, although it's a huge loss for Tim with Ed Oliver. With that bicep injury, Ed Oliver has been playing incredible this season. The games that he has been healthy, Tim, I feel like, has already been, his lack of depth has already been showing. This is a tough loss.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is a tough loss for Tim. We kind of said last week he should start selling off his pieces, and with the Ed Oliver movie, even though he gets the win this week, I just, that's a big blow to his team. It's going to be hard for him to recover from that.
Our next matchup here, we've got Mark versus Josh. Another 100-point blowout here. Josh went 356.85 to Mark's 251. I got to tell you, Josh's team is looking like a deep sleeper here. He's only one game out now of the playoff picture. His defense scored over 200 points. His offense, I was kind of concerned with Fred Warner, going out and Nico Collins now being injured. I was wondering what was going to happen, but Mahomes, he's right now the highest scoring quarterback in our league. He has looked like he has come back to the Mahomes that we know from a fantasy standpoint. I think Josh's team, he's a dark horse right now to possibly kind of cause a little bit of moving and shaking in our league here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we always kind of said, I feel like Josh's team was better than his record and kind of had some bad luck to start the year. Yeah, I mean, even that acquisition he made with you to get Kamani Vidal, really paid off in his utilization. As long as Hampton's going to be out, I mean, Vidal looks like the locked in guy, and not sure. I think he'll still get a few more weeks out of Kamani Vidal as well.
All right, our last matchup here was Andrew versus Jake, which is heavyweight battle here. Jake ended up winning this game 261.7 to the 247.75 for Andrew. Honestly, both teams really didn't do all that well, but ended up just so happens that both didn't really have that high scoring games, and that was the result.
Yeah, I mean, pretty interesting. You say heavyweight battle, and yet neither team put up 300 points. Where typically we're seeing the upper echelon teams at least put up 300 plus. But yeah, I mean, good one for Jake, and obviously,
a needed
Andrew,
one too to continue to stay on that pace right now for him as a 7 seed.
He needed that win, and for Andrew, he'll have better weeks, especially after getting Achane and the tight end as well in Kraft. So we'll see better days from Andrew moving forward here.
So that's us for this episode. We went through the fire sale, continuing on with 2 Dynasty trades as well as our Week 8 recap. If you haven't done so already, check out our most recent episode where we went through our Week 7 recap of our league. There wasn't any big trades, but you got to see the results of how everything shook out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.